It's important to remember when addressing the genocidal murders in the Beatles, who took up for Adolf Hitler and took up where he left off with the assassination of JFK and then the drug traffic flooding our society with irresponsible leadership and then slamming us into the wall of AIDS and COVID, that nothing you say has any impact. They're criminally insane. And as a person who has to abide by the law, all I have is, you know, podcasts and whoever listens. You know, I urge you to obey the law because otherwise their injunction that I should keep quiet will gain ferocity. They're extremely brutal. They have tortured me. And anything anyone organizes or orchestrates to make it look like they were inspired by me is disclaimed. It's only doing harm and it's intended to do harm to me. It's not intended to advocate for me. It's not intended to in any way ameliorate the terroristic situation of the Beatles and Penis Gabriel. But it is important to remember that sometimes things have to be repeated because otherwise the murderer thinks that it can get away with not being spoken out forcefully against. The murderer believes that by not responding, by not listening, by not allowing evidence to be credited, by um, shredding the papers, by lying through the teeth. Oh God, how they lie. Um, that nothing was ever said to begin with. I'm 61, and these terrorists have forged such a terroristic false identity over me with the murderous sadism of Seattle and Pittsburgh directed against me, no matter what I do to try to avoid them, to pacify them, to mollify them. Their claim to a greater good is sadistic bloodthirst. To them, the Bill of Rights is no better than an Injun treaty. It's to be scorned, to be sacrificed. God, how they lie. I have the mind-shattering hypocrisy of Peter Gabriel is like a plastic explosive. It blows up in your face and you fall to the ground with the unbelievable impact of the inhuman hypocrisy of that evil terrorist. So, knowing that I'm dealing with the criminally insane, it's important to speak forcefully and not let the words disappear and dissipate in the manner that the rapist at the paper shredder intends the evidence and testimony to be vaporized. So, what is it that I wish to say? Well, it's important to remember that a huge, gargantuan, Golgothic, monolithic, megagic Godzilla of a terroristic rock star poached a child who weighed 98 pounds, hitting him blindside with the help of an Attica State Prison psychiatrist, and then bellowed to the police department in all British diplomacy that the queer bait had called it down upon itself. I didn't do anything of the kind. Um, the adults in the room who claim that it was all provincial norm say they celebrate as giddy having a 15-year-old Ralph Karsh come over to an 11-year-old Jimmy Crulley and ply it with marijuana so that when armed adults beat his brains in blindside, Penis Gabriel in Attica State Prison could tell the police that it brought it down upon itself. And this is the adults in the room explaining poachers, child molesters. So, I mean, Allegheny County, Nazis, intoning and impinging their explanation for horrible, horrible acts. The mayor even admitted that they were horrible acts. that were committed against me. But they must justify. Penis Gabriel sells the police department that the queer bread brought it upon itself. There was nothing that I brought on myself. Absolutely nothing that I brought on myself. None of it. Trying to figure out what was going on. They had tortured me. They had implanted a neuroplasm. I used to say, all of this seems to come from Leslie Katz. She rejected me, but I didn't do anything to her. In fact, she was so lascivious that her own attorneys were saying that if I had balled her, it wouldn't have been anything but an ordinary dating escapade. And I didn't. I mean, it was restraint. And they were like, helter skelter, helter skelter. We're going to have to experiment on you. And they were licky chops and would peep. This is what they were. This is what they were doing. Attica State Prison with licky chops, and we would peep and make him porno and say, we get to do that to you as a child because you got confused about why the Jewish excellency of King Crimson's fetish kicked you out, boy. And Moon Unit Zappa says, I'm gonna kick you out some more. And there, you can't rectify the sadism and depravity of what the people in Seattle did. They poisoned me in the mouth. They have the sick idea that they had the right to experiment on a white, deaf person with scabies. They were threatening with AIDS. And then they were claiming when they raped somebody it was mercy because they didn't give her AIDS. And this is the mindset that sat in from the federal government. This was Mickey Obama and her husband Barrett saying we're African voodoo operators. Because you know how Penis Gabriel is. He sits with these African people and he thinks he's a voodoo operator. He thinks he has some kind of sacred, it's organized sickness by murderers who came in to vindicate Adolf Hitler by saying you should have gratitude for the flapping of our musical wings. I mean, if you want to go into it, I suggest you look at my blog and read it because Penis Gabriel's mealy mouthing horror show gets the ear of the police department. And these people are gunning down children in places like Uvalde. They're organized sadists.